Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's live in the Get Unstuck series. I am Sarah Archer. I'm a career and leadership coach, if you haven't been on one of my lives already. And my lives are streamed here on LinkedIn and also in my Facebook group, the Love What You Do Lounge. So if you are watching me from either of those platforms, a big warm hello on this cold Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week so far. The Get Unstuck series, I launched it this year, and it's all about giving you short 10 to 15 minutes, inspiring conversations around career topics that will help you get more enjoyment, more fulfillment, more satisfaction in your career, move your career forward in the way that you want it to. They're always practical, and they always have things that you can take away and implement straight away. So if you are watching me, do say hello. It's always nice to know that someone's on here with me. So do say hello. If you've got questions or comments, then please do ask away. If you're watching on replay and you've got a question, then just tag me in and I will come back and answer your question later on. So today, what we're talking about is strengths and how you can amplify strengths in your career and at work. So I'm going to just kind of cover a little bit about what strengths are, give you a link to find, access your own strengths, and also just give you some pointers around how you can amplify your strengths later on. Hello, Andrew. Thank you very much for joining me. Great that you're here. So why are strengths important? Now, if you've listened to my lives previously, you will know that I'm a big fan of the positive psychology community, and they've done a lot of research around strengths. And what they discovered is that if you can use at least 4 of your top 5 strengths every day, it's going to have loads of benefits. And some of those benefits are boosting your confidence, increasing your happiness, reducing stress, building more meaning and fulfillment, and improving work performance. So, they're great reasons to think about how we can amplify our strengths more. Because what we often tend to do is to focus on the things that we're not good at, to focus on improving the areas that we're weaker in or that we need to develop more in. But actually, our energy is much better spent if we're focusing on actually developing and amplifying the talents that we already have. So I would encourage you to think about taking a strengths-based approach, which means focusing on the things that you're good at, focusing on what you do well, rather than focusing on weaknesses. Because obviously we all have natural talents, which are our strengths, and if we invest in them, then they are going to become a real strength, a benefit to you, and it's much more enjoyable than slogging away trying to improve something that just isn't your thing. So that's what we want to be focusing on today. So let's think about what strengths are. So we've got character strengths and we've got technical strengths. So the character strengths, which is what I'm really going to talk about today, are the things that are more innate. They tend to come naturally. We tend not to always value them because they come easily to us. We think everybody must feel like that, but often they don't, because it's something that we're strong in. You might find you get feedback from people. Oh, you're so great at X or Y, because people are noticing that they're your natural strengths. Whereas your technical strength is it's a skill that you've mastered that has become strong. And obviously you can think about amplifying that further as well. But today we're talking about amplifying your more character strengths. Now, if you don't know what your character strengths are, then I'm going to put a link in once I finish the live to a strengths survey that you can do with the VIA Institute, which is the Positive Psychology Institute founded by Martin Seligman, who's one of the founders of the positive psychology movement. And they identified through research 24 character strengths that we all have. And the strengths survey allows you to identify, I think it gives you your top 10, but we're most interested in your top 5 because they're the ones you want to think about amplifying more. So there are things like curiosity, hope, kindness, leadership, zest, teamwork, spirituality, judgment, humility. I'm not going to name all the 24, but there's lots there. And the survey obviously helps you elicit them, because some of them you might know, but sometimes just having a survey really helps us unearth our strengths. But then you do need to really read the definitions that go alongside those strengths, which are on the site. It's a free survey, you don't have to pay for it, which will just help you really understand it. Because obviously, if we think about something like kindness or love, we might have particular interpretations of what that might be. But the strength definition is the thing we really need to pay attention to, because that will help us unearth how we're using it currently. So I'll give you a little example. I had a client who she worked as a VA, and her top strength was appreciation of beauty and excellence. And in her role as a VA, a virtual assistant, she couldn't really see how she was using that as strength. She'd previously worked in fashion, so she could see how it kind of came into play in terms of her fashion work. But as a VA, she couldn't see it. But when we dived into it, what she discovered was that she loved getting all the kind of chaos from her clients. So all their expenses, their receipts, their invoices, all the kind of mess of kind of the finance world, if you like, and turning it into a really functional but also beautiful spreadsheet for them that made their lives so much easier. So what we discovered was that it was the beauty of a process and the beauty of being able to turn chaos into structure that was really her strength, and that she really played to in her VA role. And it then helped her think about how she could amplify that, but also how she could promote that as something that she could offer to her potential clients, which is why it's important to really think about the definition. Because obviously in your career, if you can amplify your strengths, you're going to be more successful, because you're going to really enjoy it. It's going to be easier to do because it comes naturally to you. You're going to have more impact. You're going to be more visible because you're going to be using your strengths really effectively. So there's a real, drive to make sure we are using them. But because they are innate, we tend to, not focus on them. Just think, oh yeah, I'm good at that, but not really thinking about how we could make ourselves even better at it. So there's three things you need to think about in terms of amplification. So one is consistency. Like anything, it's applying that amplification process every day. So thinking about 10 to 15 minutes, which is not a huge amount of time, to focus on that strength and how you're going to develop it. Having commitment, so really wanting to develop that strength, which might go back to the benefits I shared earlier about why, you should amplify your strengths and the benefits of using them. So remembering, it's increasing enjoyment, it's increasing confidence, it's reducing stress, it's increasing well-being, etc., etc. And then the third one is curiosity. So being prepared to kind of self-coach and ask yourself questions that keep that kind of focus around how am I amplifying my strengths on a regular basis. So there's lots of questions you can ask yourself. I'm going to share 4 with you because I don't want to overload you. And I think these 4 are really key. So the first one is obviously just doing a little bit of reflection on how am I currently using my top 4 or 5 strengths at the moment. So thinking about what your strengths might be when you've done the survey, and then thinking, okay, how am I using them in my current career? Am I using them? So if you find you are using all 4 or 5, brilliant, that's fantastic. And I've got a question for you that will help you stretch that. If you're not using many, say maybe you're only using 1 or 2, it's then thinking, okay, how can I bring those other strengths into my daily work and use them more? Which might, you might need some help with that, or you might be able to kind of spot quite easily how you could do that. Then the next question is, how could I use them differently? So if you are using your strengths already, or you get to the point where you can see you're using 4, then you want to be stretching that by how can I use them differently? Because obviously we are creatures of habits. We tend to use our strengths in the same way over and over. And by thinking about how we can use them differently, it can really start to amplify that strength and develop it. So I've got a little example for you. So I had a client who her top strength was kindness, and that is doing favors and good deeds for others and helping people. And so she could see how she was using that in terms of her way of being at work, but she couldn't see how she could do it differently. She was really struggling with that. And what we discovered was that actually, as we explored it with her, she was using it. She could see there were certain groups of people where she was disinclined to use that kindness strength. And the group of people that she could think of that she wasn't using it with was her in-laws. So she had a very difficult relationship with her in-laws. And so she decided to experiment and to actually sort of be different with them and extend that kindness strength into that relationship with them. And obviously, it created a different dynamic for them, both parties, and they obviously responded differently to her. She could see how it made it a better encounter whenever they were together. It made her feel better. It just changed the relationship. And so because she could see how doing it differently with a different group of people was a way of extending that particular strength, she could then see how she could bring it into her work and started to notice were the groups of people at work where she was disinclined to use that strength in the same way that she would normally use it. And therefore she made an effort to be using it in that way with everybody. And so it gave her that stretch to challenge herself. So some of these things you have to think quite laterally about in terms of how can I do it differently, but it's good to kind of push yourself to think, okay, I can see how I'm using it currently, or I can see how I'm using it with certain people. What could I do that would make it a different experience? And then the other question you can think about asking is, who can I ask for feedback on my strengths? Because obviously that's going to give you a different perspective on how your strengths are being received. Again, how it might help you do them differently, use them differently, and just to give you that kind of perspective on your strengths. So I'd love to know how you get on. I'd love to know what your top 4 or 5 strengths are. I'll share mine with you. So mine are hope, perspective, social intelligence, kindness, and love. And I use all of those. I can see how I use all of those in my coaching practice. And also I challenge myself on a regular basis to how can I use them differently in my business as well as in my coaching practice. So yeah, let me know how you get on. I'm going to pop the link to the Via Strengths survey into the chat now so that you can find out what your top strengths are. And, do get in touch if you need any help with some of those questions, or if you've ticked off those questions and you want some different questions to help you amplify your strengths, let me know. I've got lots that I could share with you. And I will see you back here for another live next Wednesday. Have a great week, and I look forward to hearing more about your strengths work if you want to get in touch with me.